Hi there, this is my final project for assessment in special education. First, I'm going to be talking about the least restrictive environment. So the definition of least restrictive environment is that according to federal special education laws, the educational placement for students with disabilities that is as close to the general education classroom as feasible. So basically, you'd want to place as little restrictions as possible. So if they're able to be incorporated into the regular ed classroom, that's where you should leave them. You shouldn't restrict them from that environment, and they should be included there. So a few of the delivery options: either the student may leave the general education classroom and receive support in the resource room, or the student may receive support through the special education teacher within their regular education classroom. So the assessment process. There are four components of the assessment process: identification and referral, determine of eligibility, program planning, program implementation, and evaluation. With this, it's seen as a cycle because you have to go from one component to the next to get through the assessment process. And once you've reached the end, when the program is being implemented, you also have to be reevaluated. So the student, their IEP will be reevaluated each year, and sometimes it's even redone. So then the process, the assessment process would be restarted from the beginning with the probably skip the identification referral and go on to the determinant of eligibility and make sure that they're still needing the services that they're receiving, or if they need to be updated as well. So the first component of the special education assessment process is identification and referral. This has three different parts to it. The first is screening and teacher identification of students with school problem. Next is referral intervention strategies, and then referral and notification of parents. So this phase is super important because the student being identified is the first step to get them more up to speed and get their needs met. So if their problem was never identified by the teacher, then they would never be able to receive services that were going to benefit them. The next phase, or the next part of the assessment process, is to determine eligibility. So a couple parts to this as well. First, design of the individualized assessment plan, parental permission for assessment, administration, scoring, and interpretation of assessment procedures, reporting results, and decisions about eligibility. This phase is super important because it has a lot of careful planning that goes into it. There's a team that conducts assessments that are very important to decide if the child is eligible for the services or not. This phase plays a huge role in the educational assessment process because it decides whether the student is going to receive services and what services they're eligible for. The next step in the assessment process is program planning. This has a few steps broken down into it, one being design of the individualized education program, the IEP, and then parental agreement to the IEP. This phase is also very important because it is when the team of professionals designs the plan for the specific needs of the student. The team really decides what the needs of the children are and how they can tend to those needs. It's also important because the parents are active members of this team and they play a vital role in creating the plan. The fourth step of the assessment process is program implementation and evaluation. This has a few steps broken down to it as well: implementation of the IEP, ongoing monitoring of student progress, annual review of the IEP, and periodic reevaluation of eligibility. This phase is important because it is the actual implementation of the plan, and this is when they really start trying to meet the needs of the child. This phase also helps to make changes that are necessary to further the child's growth and redetermines if they're eligible periodically. A few strategies that will encourage parent participation. I've listed more than 5, but I'll just read through a few of them. Plenty of notice before the meeting. So you should give your parents at least 10 days before the meeting is going to occur so that they have plenty of time to prepare. Send out an invitation for the meeting. Make it as personable as possible, and show them that you really care and you really want them to be there. If cultural practices are unfamiliar and surprising, you should learn more about their importance to the family. Do not express shock or disgust. This will really know that you care about what they're doing in their household and what you care for their family. Next, have a parent who has been in their situation explain it to them. This can make it really kind of close to home if another parent who has gone through the IEP process and their child is now receiving services, if they explain it to the parent you're trying to work with, they can really probably learn a lot from a parent who's gone through the same process that they're about to begin going through. Follow through in a timely manner. Make sure that you're not leaving your parents waiting. This can be a really stressful and scary time for parents, so responding as quickly as you can to them will really help them get through it. Be open to different accommodations that the family may need. So just anything that they may need, you should be open to it. Ask families for ideas regarding the IEP. So during the IEP meeting or even beforehand, just communicate with the family and ask them for any ideas that they have seen at home, maybe they've seen with their students' schoolwork, whatever. Just ask them for their ideas so they feel like they're really are playing a key role in the IEP process. Call, email, send a note, or write something in the student's communication book to parents when their son or daughter does something well or has a good day. Parents, especially going through this, really want to know when their students are doing well, and because they're kind of getting all of their where they lack is really getting pointed out during this time. So making sure that the parents know that they still have they have strengths in other areas and letting them know when they're showing those strengths. Clearly mark entrances and signage so that families know how to approach the school building and don't feel lost when they enter. This is super important. If a parent's coming into a newer school and they don't know where they're going, there should be signs to lead them through the school so that they feel more comfortable there. And lastly, listen to parents and maintain communication that is conversational rather than a professional monologue. This helps it feel like they can talk to you more, that they can just talk to you in a conversation rather than you speaking in a more professional manner where they might not be understanding some of the words you're using. So try and make it conversational and make sure that they understand what you're saying. 3 types of derived scores. So the first type of score is a percentile ranks. So for a particular raw score, it indicates the percentage of individuals within the norm group who achieved this raw score or a lower one. It is relatively easy to understand, refers to a percentage of persons, and indicates relative position within the norm group. So if you're trying to figure out where a student lies within the rest of their class, percentile rank would be a good type of score to use. Next is standard scores. So comparing the performance of the same individual on 2 different measures is what standard scores means. So standard scores come from any mean or standard deviation. They provide a standard scale for reporting norms for various age or grade groups within the total standardization sample. So this is more for if you're looking at the same student in 2 different areas, you would use standard scores. Or if you're looking at norms for a various age or grade group, like I said before, this is when you would use that. And then stanines represent a range of performance. It's less precise than standard scores and percentile ranks, so it's not used as much. Percentile ranks and standard scores are used far more often than stanines. And then here's my reference. I used our book for this class, Assessing Students with Special Needs, and that's where I got all my information. Thank you.